Lily Gonzalez, Director of the San Antonio Book Festival. Welcome to tonight's event, Get Lit with Maria Hinojosa, in conversation with Diane Guerrero. We're delighted that you could join us. One of the more positive outcomes of these virtual events is that we get to have people tuning in from outside the San Antonio area. So feel free to tell us in the chat where you're joining us from. And if you have a great question for Maria anytime during the program, you can submit it in the Ask a Question section. And of course, buy the book. You can click the green button below and you'll get a new webpage that will send you to Nowhere Bookshop. It's a terrific new independent bookstore here in San Antonio, and you can buy Maria's and Diane's books. Tonight we're kicking off our fall series of virtual events that will run through December. You can expect more stimulating conversations like the one that we're all about to enjoy, including our event later this month with Texas Public Radio and the San Antonio chapter of The Links, featuring historian, educator, and author Carol Anderson talking about voting rights and voter suppression. If that sounds like something that interests you, you can follow us on social media, you can subscribe to the newsletter, all the usual stuff. That's also how you can get the latest and greatest about the 9th Annual San Antonio Book Festival for 2021. More details on that to come. Let me tell you about our fabulous moderator tonight. Diane Guerrero, the television actress from the mega hit Orange is the New Black and Jane the Virgin, was just 14 years old on the day her parents were detained and deported while she was in school. Born in the U.S., Diane was able to remain in the country and continue her education, depending on the kindness of family friends who took her in and helped her build a life and a successful acting career for herself, without the support system of her family. She's written about her family in the Los Angeles Times and in her book, In the Country We Love, and she's appeared on CNN to discuss immigration issues. She also volunteers with the nonprofit Immigrant Legal Resource Center. She lives in New York City. Let me tell you about Maria Hinojosa. Maria Hinojosa's nearly 30-year career as a journalist includes reporting for PBS, CBS, WGBH, WNBC, CNN, NPR, and anchoring and executive producing the Peabody Award-winning show Latino USA. It's one of my favorite podcasts. Her awards include 4 Emmys, the Studs Terkel Community Media Award, 2 Robert F. Kennedy Awards, and the Edward R. Murrow Award. In 2010, she founded Futuro Media, an independent nonprofit producing multimedia content from a POC perspective. Through the breadth of her work, and as the founding co-anchor of the political podcast In the Thick, Maria has informed millions of people about the changing cultural and political landscape in America and abroad. She lives in Harlem, in New York City, with her family. On a more personal note, many moons ago, I was a bright-eyed journalism student at Northwestern, discovering the ways of the world for a young Latina. I didn't have many professional role models, but I had Maria Hinojosa. She came to campus for a talk, and I remember she wore these cream-colored leather pants. She was nothing like the Mexican women that I had grown up with. She was this professional journalist, completely embodying her Mexican culture, trailblazing, advocating for people of color, telling Latino stories, all while looking super fly. She even mentions those leather pants in this book. She continues to inspire me and so many other women I know. Ladies and gentlemen, friends from near and far, Diane Guerrero and Maria Hinojosa.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's event. And before we begin, Maria and I would like to thank the San Antonio Book Festival for having us. And of course, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You're certainly in for a treat. If you haven't already done so, there's a green button somewhere on your page. Click on there. If you haven't picked up Maria Hinojosa's book, Once I Was You, please pick it up. There's also mine there if you feel like reading a second book, In the Country We Love. Maria, hi.
Hi, Ma. I didn't know you moved to New York. We have to be. When will we see each other?
That was an old bio. I'm in LA.
I was like, wait a second. I was like, she's in LA. Okay, good. All right. Good.
If not, I would have been over for a cafecito already, girl. You know.
Already, or some chilaquiles. I had COVID. So one of the things that I learned to do when I was trying to survive COVID, and I'm fine, everybody, it was March and April, aprendí cómo hacer la sopa, el consomé de pollo de mi abuelita, which like never worked. So next time I see you, I'll make you some sopita de pollo.
I can't wait to have a sopita de pollo from you. I can't wait to be near you, to hug you, to hold you. Maria, thank you so much for writing this wonderful book. I feel so close to you. And of course, I've had the honor and the privilege to be around you. I've had the support from you since I began. And I just have to say thank you. Thank you for being the leader that you are. Thank you for being just that rebel warrior, hero, warrior, princess, queen that you are. We really appreciate you. We do, and I do especially. Now,
I don't walk around like that, right? Because I have kids and I have a husband, and so that's part of the book also, which is like no te lo creas mucho. I mean, I love this. I love the contact with people like you do, because I've seen you in action, and I know how touched you are by every human being that it loves you and for your work and for who you are and the activist that you are. But those accolades, I'm like, okay, but also I'm like, yeah, I just did a load of laundry before I sat down.
That's okay. Warriors do laundry, and queens do too. Maybe sometimes the real ones do.
There you go.
I want to just dive in because I have so many questions, and I know that the audience is going to have questions for you. And I just, I'm excited to get started. So you share with us such personal stories and just so much of your career and what made you you. I'll start off with this. You experienced growing up in the U.S., but you also had that rich experience of visiting Mexico a lot and having that tight connection. A lot of us immigrant kids don't have that same experience. So I feel like that's why you have been such an incredible voice, because you have been able to have both those things really. You mentioned some of your earlier influences, and I know that your family was big into news, and so was the country at the time. I guess it always has been. But you talked about only seeing men as anchors, only seeing men represented, and that the first time you saw a woman anchor or delivering the news was in Mexico. I have a lot of quotes that I got, so I'm just going to say this one, and there's going to be more to come. You said, I saw Mexican-American women as public figures, thinkers, change makers, beings who are not afraid to be visible and take up space. How did seeing Mexican women as anchors to sexual and feminine, to the Adelitas, the soldaderas, the revolutionary women, how did seeing all of those kinds of women in Mexico influence you as a child?
First of all, it's great to be here with you, Diane, and thank you for that question. Thank you for like pulling out quotes. I'm like, oh my God, girlfriend was underlining my book. I'm just like, ooh, that's like fabulous. Same way I did for your book, by the way. Same way I was like, yeah.
I remember I was like, I hope she didn't ask me generic questions. No, not here, Maria, not here.
So wait, what was the question? I totally forgot.
That's okay. I'll take it again. How did seeing these women in Mexico?
I got it right. So
influence
that actually, like that process of understanding, like what I was seeing in Mexico, what I was processing here, actually came out in this book. Like that's when I understood. Espérate un segundo. Like I was seeing women in Mexico doing the news. I wasn't seeing that in Chicago, where I was growing up. Latinos and Latinas were invisible from the news, but in Mexico, we were everywhere in the news. I listened to Radio Educación. I would hear the women doing public radio in Spanish. I mean, maybe that's the reason why I ended up in public radio, because I heard it in Spanish first. So for me, this was definitely one of the more beautiful and unexpected turns with this book, where I was like, no, espérate. Because I think as Mexicanas, and I'm generalizing, okay, this is my story, but as Mexicanas, we do kind of feel like there is that, pues cásate con tu novio, you know, stay married, be a good wife. I mean, I have cousins in this narrative, and that's fine. But then as I was and I was rebelling against that, I was like, es que I don't want to be that, papi. I don't want to be that. Don't expect, which pushed me to be a rebel, which pushed me in other things, and we can talk about that. But the other side of that equation, as I was writing this book, I was like, espérate, es que las más chingonas, like the women who were, apart from the feminists in the United States who were holding like women's marches then, right? That was definitely happening. But in terms of just kind of being in positions of power and authority in different ways, it was in Mexico. And then the Adelitas, I was like, es que I was seeing the Adelitas. I was also seeing sexualized women. I was also seeing, you know, I write about this, that when we would go to Mexico and we were driving through the periférico in La Ciudad de Mexico, you know, my brother and I would be like, oh, because they would have billboards for women in bras and underwear. And it's like, you didn't see that in the United States. So el cuerpo en Mexico, there was like a different thing about the body and the relationship. And so those were some of the things that I ended up working out in the book that was really quite unexpected for me. And as you know, there's a big part of the book that is basically a woman's story, a feminist story, a survivor story.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What made you write this book? Like, was it like those kinds of memories? Or, I mean, you, first of all, you've had such an incredible life, and still have so much more to go. But like, damn, when I was reading that, I was kind of like, I was right there with you on that motorcycle, like traveling all over the world and experiencing all of, like, this is what we need to read. This is the kind of stuff that our community needs to see, that this kind of possibility. And not only that it's been there for us. What made you write this book? What are you hoping people get from this book?
So la verdad, I mean, I wrote 2 books early in my career. I wrote Cruz, Gang Members Talk to Maria Hinojosa, which was like a Studs Terkel book of interviews with gang members for a young adult audience. And then I wrote Raising Raul, Adventures Raising Myself and My Son. And that was like a motherhood memoir, a Latina. It was like Mommy Lit before Mommy Lit happened. It was Latina Lit as we were just kind of coming into that. But the book didn't really take off, even though it was beautifully written and it got praise, pero no pasó. And I suffered a lot to write a book. You know what that is when it's like, woo, it's a lot of work. So I was like, nah, I'm not going to write a book. You know, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to do other stuff. And 4 years ago, I actually ended up going viral on MSNBC. And I went viral because I said illegal is not a noun. And, you know, 10 million people saw it. And by the way, you know this, if you go viral, no pasa nada. The next day, you still got to get up and clean the cat pee and walk the dog. And it's like, you know, nothing really substantially changes. But a dear friend of mine, who's the chair of my board, who actually lives in Austin, Texas, Deepa Donde, said to me, okay, well, you've got to write that book. And I was like, oh, man, she wants me to write a book. Okay, well, I feel like I do, actually. And I thought, Diane, it was going to be a little book. You know, like Chimamanda Adichie, we were all feminists. We are all feminists. Right. A little book that when we used to travel in airports, you know, that you would pick up when we used to travel in airports. So I was like, I'll write that, because I figured I could do that and it wouldn't be a heavy lift. And writing a book is a heavy lift. Yeah. And then, you know, as you get into it, it's more complicated. I got an agent because mine had retired, and there really wasn't an interest in that book. There was like, yeah, no. And when I found my editor at Simon & Schuster, Michelle Edita Mulligan, she, who's Irish Mexican from Chicago, so we connect on many levels. And she was the one who said, make this a bigger book, Maria. And I was like, what? What? And she was like, make this a big book. I want you to put a lot of history in this. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. Oh my God, what history? What? And then that was when I understood what we were trying to do here. And so it was an opportunity to yes, tell my story. And as you know, there's a lot that gets revealed there, but at the same time, give people, I call it spinach, but it's like really delicious tasting spinach. Like when you go to the Italian restaurant and they make it like sauteed with garlic and olive oil, and a little bit of lemon. So it's that kind of spinach that you're going to be getting in the book, where you're just like, wow, that I really needed to eat that. I really needed to read that. I feel more stable and informed. And that's how the book turned out. Yeah.
It really did. I was taking crazy notes. I remember I was like trying to take notes on my computer. I'm like, I can't fucking type. Oops, sorry. I was like, I can't type. And I just like went and I just like took notes after notes, and I'm highlighting and I'm like listening. You know, I had to finish. It's a thick book. I had to finish. Oops, there you go. It's a thick book. I had to finish it before this. So I started listening so I was hearing you speak as well. So I was reading it at the same time while you spoke, taking notes. I was devouring the hell out of it. And I got all that. I got my spinach from that. So I was learning. I was like, you know, it was validating in so many ways. And I was learning all of this history that, you know, you hear now and then, but it's never been told like this. It's never been told for us. So we'll get more into the history of the book later. What I do want to talk about now, though, is something que yo no sabía about you, is that you at one point were, and I think you still are, by the way, a thespian. You wanted to be an actor. Yes, honey, get it. You want to be an actor. And you know, when I started, I wanted to be a journalist.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
oh my God.
We talked about that, but I wanted to do that. But I feel like we were both, what I got from that is that we were both deterred by this like inherently oppressive system telling us no. And I think that, you know, we made it sort of happen in the way that we needed to happen. But you talk about feeling invisible at that time, and you know, that's how a lot of us in the community feel or have felt at some point. And getting here or getting from point A to point B is usually so difficult because we don't see ourselves. You said that the Latinx population is invisible. Can you explain what you mean by that?
So, you know, if you don't see yourself giving the news, like way back, you know, in the 70s, let's say, when I was really consuming the news, you don't see anybody delivering the news who looks like you. You don't see any stories in the news about people like you or your community at all. Then you know, you begin to feel invisible. You're like, well, I'm just not here, you know, I mean, so therefore I don't really matter. For me, the worrisome part about the invisibility in this moment, right, is that it leads people to think, and so therefore I don't matter, and so therefore who cares if I vote? That's what, and I know it freaks you out too, which is like, no, we can't, that can't happen. But, you know, invisibility is actually really bad for your mental health. Like, there is a psychological impact. And one of the things that it does do is that it makes us think that we can't do things, which is why I applaud you and love you so much, because you went after it. You forced yourself. You know, it was very scary. And you had, of course, you know, Diane, I want to sing your praises all the time because of what you do and how public you are about the struggles and how you got to where you got, and the mental health struggles and all of that. So I just feel like I wanted to explain that a little bit personally. Imagínate. And this is where actually allyship is really important. People have asked, you know, what can I do as an ally if I'm not Latino? So I tell the story about a woman in my career services department at Barnard College, where I was a student. And I was like, I told her, no, I'm not going to apply for the NPR internship. Come on. I mean, even though I had been doing a radio show for 5 years, I had an audience in New York. I had done 24-hour programming. I was the program director, like, por favor. And I told her, es que NPR will never hire me, so I'm not even going to apply. And she said, you're applying.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you out of the office. You're applying. What would have happened if she hadn't done that? That's what a good ally is. You know, understand that for Latinos and Latinas, in this case, people of color, generally women also, we don't we second guess our voices. We live with the imposter syndrome, which is a big part of the book, my sombra of the imposter syndrome. And so that's one thing that I just wanted to make clear too, that we're all dealing with this imposter syndrome. And I just hope that my message is don't give up. I mean, I think you know this too, Diane, because I actually say this to my students. Well, because as you know, Diane, I'm Mexican, so I have 16 jobs, includes author, journalist, this, that, mother, wife, but also I'm a professor. And so I tell my students, I'm like, also, I want you, and for everybody who's watching, please do not give up on those crazy dreams. One of the things I asked my students, I taught today, along with everything else, I asked my students, when I'm debriefing them and getting to them, I ask them, what's your craziest, wildest dream? I was like, don't think about it a lot. Just what's your craziest, wildest dream? My crazy, wildest dream, Diane, used to be that I would do a Hollywood movie. I'm doing a Hollywood movie. You know that.
You are? I didn't know that.
I have a role on In the Heights.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. And here I am. I was like, hold on. There's this light that is like coming. And
you do have a light. What?
It's my. Here I am.
There you go.
That's right. You are In the Heights. I totally forgot about it, and it's coming out. Congratulations on that. And I know that you're going to continue acting, and you know why? Because I want you to play a role in my movie that's going to be produced, and I'm just shamelessly plugging my stuff in, produced and made in 2021, and I want you to play a role in it.
Okay, well that's a done deal. Okay, San Antonio, you heard it first. San Antonio, hey, what? Yes.
Listen, I wanna kind of keep on talking about this invisibility that our community feels. You talk about in your book, you have such rich experiences. You talk to people and you talk about people from different people from all over the world, and specifically different cultures from Latin America, and you've met them and you've witnessed these people living in the U.S., all sorts of people. At a time where our country is on the verge of like one of the most important elections of our lifetime, and you hear all this talk about the Latinx vote. You know how they come out just in September for Hispanic Heritage Month to try to get our vote. At a time where there's so much fear that our community, won't show up to vote. Knowing what you know about our people, and knowing what you know about our history of immigration in the U.S., what is this country failing to get about us? Why can't they speak to us?
It's like Dog Day afternoon. I've been covering elections for a while now. Ronald Reagan, for God's sakes, Ronald Reagan was talking about Latino voters. He was like, Latinos are Republicans. Hispanics are Republicans. They just don't even know it yet. Mm-hmm. And so it was actually more the Republicans that were kind of going after the Latino vote. But there was always this kind of, we're the sleeping giant, it's this wave, et cetera. Frankly, we witnessed it. I was surprised, to be honest with you, in terms of the fire with which Latino and Latina voters were delivering for Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. I don't think he won the state of Texas, but I think he was, competitive. But there are places, Nevada, for example, where the Latino vote was really extraordinary for Bernie Sanders. And so everybody saw, we witnessed as political journalists, like, what? They had a plan. They were connecting with people. They were texting people. They were knocking it, like they had a plan. And Latino voters responded. Mm-hmm. They were like, pues, Tío Bernie knocked on the door more than once. Pues me cae bien and I like his policies. Okay, I'm actually gonna do, because we actually somos muy gentiles and respetuosos, como los colombianos, we were gonna return the favor. We'll go vote for you. Mm-hmm. So I don't even understand. It's very frustrating for me. I don't have an in to the Democratic Party. I'm not a member of the party. I'm an independent journalist. I criticize them along with the Republicans, obviamente. But I really don't understand how in the year 2020 during the Democratic National Convention that there would be even a question of whether Latinos were sufficiently visible. That never should have been a question. And it was. And Latinos were there. It's not like we weren't. I mean, Eva Longoria opened, por favor, Eva Longoria from Texas opened the event, but it was more like, this question of how is it, even though I understand the politics of it, but please, you can't give someone...
Like Julian Castro, who was our only
por ejemplo,
presidential candidate that we had from our community, that they would not have him present there, and to give AOC just a minute and not to have all these amazing leaders that we have. You.
No, I would never do the Democratic National Convention, but the point is that
I don't know, I'm calling them.
But the point is, yes, just in those two things, AOC and Julian, if you would have given AOC one night and Julian another night, okay. Yeah. People would have been like, thank you. We appreciate that, and maybe the Chuck Rocha, who actually organized the outreach for Bernie and Latinos. Like, okay, what's up with that? So I'm very, on the other hand, and this is what we don't know. And actually, I was reporting this out of the state of Texas, actually with someone from San Antonio, who I shall name influential Latino businessman in the city of San Antonio, who is a source of mine. And we were talking about many of his friends who are Mexican-American from San Antonio who will vote for Donald Trump. He said it's a nose-hold it's a nose-hold vote because they are afraid of Biden becoming too progressive, which I'm just like, I don't think you need to worry about that with Biden. But here's the question I asked him, and he said he's actually not going to vote for Trump again. He won't. He did, but he's not. And then I said, well, what about the children of voting age of those Latino Trump voters from San Antonio? Will their kids who are now 18, 19, 20, 21, and who can vote, will they vote for Donald Trump? And he didn't have an answer. He was like, So there is something that could happen, which is that young Latino voters show everybody what it's about. Having said that, Diane, I want to be very honest. The invisibility that you want to talk about has consequences. And so there will be. Texas is not so much a red state or a blue state. It's a non-voting state. Okay. Texas Latinos have incorporated this sentiment de que no importamos, de que we don't matter. So for Texas in particular, this has got to be an election that turns out voters, period.
Well, I sure hope that we understand that, if we understand our history, we understand what has happened time and again to make us, to have us wondering, do they care about us? We have consistently seen that they don't. But for the love of God, I hope you show up and at least understand that your presence means a lot and that you matter.
Yes, so. You do, every single one of you matter. And here's the other thing. I am trying to get an interview with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They are the only two candidates who didn't speak to me. I spoke to Buttigieg, I spoke to Beto, I spoke to todos. They all gave me an hour. Bernie Sanders, Sanders sat down with me for an hour. I think it's important in terms of the Democratic Party that they understand that as voters, we have questions for them. Absolutely. And they can't be afraid. And I'm not that mean. You know me. I'm going to ask a tough question, pero no soy mala.
No, you're incredible. And they're fools if they don't. And I'm going to start a Twitter something. Algo lo voy a llamar. I'm going to call somebody. It's not okay. Because it's like we have questions and we need answers. We don't feel confident. We don't feel protected. We feel nervous just going to the polls. What are the protections that are being offered if you want our vote? And then don't come out if we don't vote and try to blame it all on us, como siempre. Anyway, moving on from voting, because I want to get as many questions in. We were talking about, you were talking about NPR earlier, and I love that whole story, how that ally helped you apply, and of course, you got in. And you talk about that internship in Washington, and I savor it too because it seems so familiar to, like, when I got my big break, or when somebody suggested that I do something that I thought was impossible, and then it turns out, wow, it's not impossible. Why? Why is it not impossible? I'll tell you why, people. I'm going to read this. Okay, so you said you got a shot. Sorry, your quote is, I'm not a journalist. You're an actor, but I'm not a journalist. You said, because of my activism and my academic and cultural work, I knew about people and issues that no one inside NPR had ever heard of. And this was your response to taking a chance on yourself and asking if you could cover the protests in El Salvador. And this is during the Reagan era, right, where he legalized a lot of undocumented immigrants, but he was still, like, out there bombing El Salvador. And you wanted to cover that. They gave you a shot. People at NPR saw your value, and they saw how incredible that piece was because you came correct, as you do. You had your little recorder, you got the sound right, you put the whole thing together, and boom, it was the best one out of that whole segment. ¿Qué pasó? You brought 5 more stories to them that they turned down. Some dude, I don't know what his name is. It's in the book somewhere. But he turned down.
Oh, he knows who he is.
Oh, I bet he does. And so that was the end of your internship. After that, you were feeling pretty down, but then you got a call from another person at NPR for their minority program. And you said, and I quote, "Oh, it's like that? This is some bullshit." But you still saw an in, and you took it. And now this is my question. There's been so much controversy over minority programs, and seeing how so little has changed. I mean, I've been a part of minority programs. I mean, anybody who I know in our community, has taken advantage of these programs, and they've been good. But also, this is kind of like the same stuff that we're sort of dealing with. And there's still not much representation. There's still so much suffering in our community, and there's still not much advancement. So what is your take on minority programs?
All right. So first of all, actually, minority is a word that is basically not used in my newsroom. I don't use the word minority. I don't refer to when I thought about this, like, why is this something that I feel strongly about? And I was like, well, because I've never actually said to my kids, "Oh, kids, you're members of a minority group." Es que nunca, I never said that to them. So I was like, okay, so we're not. And thinking about the fact that white America is going to be the numerical minority in this country soon, I want to get rid of this stigma of what it is to be a minority, because white people are going to be afraid to be a minority because they know how minorities are treated in this country. Mm-hmm. So we have to reframe that whole conversation. So anybody who is doing this kind of work, think about that term and what we can use that better describes. And terms are a whole other complicated story. But you're right, Diane. The truth is that had it not been for the 4th floor of NPR at that time, which was like special programming, right, for special audiences. So we're special, but we're seen as a tiny audience. Had it not been for that producer who was doing Hispanic Heritage Month programming in the year 1985, I would not have gotten my shot. Actually, 1986. It was 1986. No, yeah, 1986.
Yeah.
So it is important. And then I end up filing for 2, again, minority shows, Enfoque Nacional, which was in Spanish. It was like Latino USA in Spanish, and Panorama Hispano, which was coming out of Madison, Wisconsin. And Vidal Guzman, the producer, may he rest in peace. And that's how I started. My career in public radio started in Spanish. here in the United States because I couldn't break into the English language market. And so that is where I'm like, that's some bullshit.
Yeah.
That is some bullshit.
Yeah.
Imagine if and I hope, and this is the message that both of us have for anybody who's watching this, right, is the tenacity that Diane has had in her career. And that, I mean, when they said no to me, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to find another way to do this because I actually have now decided I really like this public radio thing. And so now I want to do this. So now I'm going to figure out how to make this happen. But imagine if I had caved in that moment, the way I caved on the theater thing. Imagine if I had just been like, oh, all right, well, I guess I'm just not going to do that. So that is where we cannot let our invisibility, our imposter syndrome, our deep insecurity, we all have it. As you know, I don't think I ever told you this, but I asked Rita Moreno, Queen Rita Moreno, who's won the EGOT plus the Peabody, right? Right. So I said to her, Oyeme, Diane, digo, Rita, how do you ever get insecure? And she's like, ay, mija, my little insecure voice has a name. And she named her. She was like, Maria, Juanita, Pedlita, Juancita, Conchita, Pérez, no sé qué. And when she comes up, cuando ella aparece, I just tell her, estás castigada. Go to your room y le cierro la puerta.
Yes. So
it happens. All of us have it, right? That's why we want to talk about this, because we don't want you to cut yourself off from what's the point. I mean, imagine if Diane had said, no, pues, I'm not going to do this. It didn't work this time. Imagine we wouldn't have Diane, who's now exploding and is having such a huge influence on our pop culture and the arts and activism and politics. So that's what we need to be doing, is to be lifting people up. And that's, I hope, a big message in Once I Was You.
Absolutely. Well, you certainly have lifted our community up. You certainly have lifted me up. And anybody who reads your book and anybody who follows you will feel the same way. I guarantee you. Call me if there's no money back, but still call me and I'll let you know what's the deal. Well, that wraps up my questions, even though I have one more. I'm going to maybe sneak it in later, but I have some questions from the audience. Thank you guys so much for being patient and for listening to us chit chat. We're just amigas here talking. So I'm sure you just got a personal glimpse into like our relationship. So you're very welcome. Antonio asks, what advice would you give to a recent college graduate on the job market dealing with imposter syndrome regarding their Latinidad?
Whoa. This is a hard one. I have a college graduate who is living right here at home now. And she, like you, is, traumatized. Like, wait, what happened? It was the end of my senior year. It was supposed to be like the best last 4 months of my life. And ¿qué pasó? How do you move in a job market like this? And on top of that, the politics of the moment. I think what this has done is definitely like politicized her in a way that has been really fascinating to watch. But at the same time, this is a very sad time for all of us, as we're seeing, the movement for Black lives yet again, por favor. Mm-hmm. That movement started the first day that a Black enslaved person arrived on this land, was when the movement for respecting Black lives started. Mm-hmm. So your imposter syndrome is real and it's probably worse now. I dealt with imposter syndrome because of this invisibility, this deep invisibility. The contradiction of now is that we're like deeply invisible, while at the same time we're everywhere and we're targeted and hated and accused and pointed at. So it's like, on top of the invisibility, when we are there, we have a president who is attacking us basically all the time. So your imposter syndrome is real. I guess I'm just going to tell you the way I managed it, right? Which is that I forced myself through it because I understood I had privilege. Now, I want to say, when I talk about privilege, I'm a professor, for example, and so today when I talk to my students, I'm like, I know that right now many of you are I have students who are dealing with food insecurity, so I understand that, and we're working hard to resolve that for them. But but they are students at an Ivy League college that I'm teaching, so they have privilege. So you have privilege. You just graduated from college. So that means that you're going to have to understand your privilege. And the way I understood it was responsibility. Bueno, entonces tengo que hacer algo. Oh, but I feel, but this, but me. And I'm like, okay, but tengo que hacer algo. And so in some ways, I'm going to ask you to just eat through. I talk about eating your fear. It's like you're going to have to eat through your imposter syndrome because we need you. I mean, if your stated career is not happening right now because of this disaster, it's going to happen eventually. Okay, there will be a different kind of normal, pero no todo se va a quedar estancado, right? So then go into a place where maybe you're not expecting to be, especially in Texas. If you're in Texas, anywhere in the country, you can go and volunteer. So do that so that you can help understand that your imposter syndrome is real, but at the same time, you have so much to give. You have so much to give, and so many people need from you. And that will help you to understand your own responsibility in giving back in this moment. Please don't give up, though. And I understand you.
That's beautiful. I'm like, with privilege comes responsibility. I'm going to get that tattooed across my chest. Right here. Hey. Okay, one more question. Gwendolyn asked, and I wonder, Gwendolyn, I wish you would ask me when is going to be the day that I could say the word asks without asks. Yes. Gwendolyn wants to know, Maria, what do you know about the shocking news of the unauthorized hysterectomies other surgical procedures that are being performed on migrants detained at the border? Gracias, Maria, for all you do.
So this is very challenging for me because I am not surprised. I was in Texas, in Raymondville, Texas, near Harlingen, in the year 2011, reporting about this very issue, not hysterectomies. We uncovered through an African-American nurse who was a whistleblower, an actual whistleblower, who uncovered undocumented immigrants being held at this detention facility in Raymondville, who were being sexually raped, sexually assaulted, sexually harassed every day. We uncovered through this whistleblower that people were being fed spoiled food, so that they would be fed oatmeal because they would buy food that was out of date because that's how they save money. And so the oatmeal that they would serve would have live maggots in it. And people would eat it because they were starving. They had no other thing to eat. We uncovered this. We uncovered that people inside were being over-medicated as another form of treatment. So on the one hand, the doctor, all they'll do is give you 2 Tylenol and that's it for no matter what. Anything you have, 2 Tylenol. But if you're particularly a problem, they'll find a way to over-medicate. If you're somebody who complains, who's actually, battling depression or whatever, they'll just over-medicate you. And we had a case of a man, Jamaican man, who was over-medicated to the point that he fell off of his bunk, fell flat on his face, shattered his eye socket, and broke a testicle. So we uncovered this. And this was under a Democratic administration, Barack Obama. So people who have criminal minds, Diane, and I don't. So, but people who have criminal minds, I'm sorry to say this, and there are many in our community because many of these places are staffed by people who look like Diane and me and our parents and our family and todos. Mm-hmm. So, it can no longer be, I'm just doing my job. It can no longer be, I'm just doing my job. And so we need whistleblowers. I have asked desperately, especially to the people in Texas, please get in touch with me, be a whistleblower. We need you, because if this is the criminal mind part about it, if you are a sadist, a pedophile, an abuser, somebody who gets their kicks off of psychologically terrorizing people, you know exactly where to apply for a job in an immigrant detention facility.
Wow.
If you have a high school degree, more than likely you'll get hired. As you know, they've reduced the criminal checks. There are many of these places where you don't even get a background criminal check. So they are openly employing people to take care of other people without knowing if they have a criminal background. And so what I'm going to say to you is going to be horrible. I will say I don't have proof of what I'm about to say because that's part of the plan. There is no way that I can confirm from an infant if the infant has been raped. There is no way that I can confirm from a 2.5-year-old toddler who does not yet speak if that child was molested. If a child is molested or raped, you know what happens? They'll deport that child. And therefore the case is gone. So the level of criminality that now exists throughout this entire system is one that we have. And I say these things because they are horrible. That is happening right now. There is a child being sexually assaulted in an immigrant detention facility right now. I'm sure of it. And so that hysterectomies were being performed. I just, again, this medical doctor is un bárbaro. It's barbaric. But they were testing on black bodies. This is not you. They were testing on indigenous bodies. Mm-hmm. This is not you. This is what happens when you label a people illegal. So I can't be surprised. I can be horrified. I can't be surprised. But what I want is I want this to stop. And, you know, again, I've said this several times. Actually, I was on Morning Joe this morning saying this. I was kind of like, oh, my God, I can't believe I just said this. But, you know, to Joe Biden, this is your perfect opportunity to say, se acabó. Goodbye. Ciao. Yeah. Shutting them down.
Shut them down.
It's like the perfect moment for him to come out and say, I understand. We will resolve this. But this needs to stop, period. So that would be, you know what, if he did that, that would make a big difference. You know that.
Yeah, that would get the Latino vote.
That would get the Latino. They would just be like, ¿qué?
Bueno, there's a lot of work to do. And, you know, no action is too small. So whatever you can do to get this word out, if you are concerned, if you know this affects all of us. And it's up to us to keep people in power accountable, get the people out, get the people who we can apply pressure on in, and let's move forward and absolutely abolish ICE and get rid of all of those awful detention centers and just the entire criminal justice system in general.
I'm gonna one up you on the abolish ICE.
Go ahead, please.
So I lived through September 11th, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as I write in the book, I developed PTSD.
Yeah.
And September 11th was something that really opened my eyes in ways that was very profound. You know, I was crying with firefighters, Irish guys, firefighters. I was crying with the parents of bankers from the Wall Street. You know, it really did something. It was very profound for me. And I forgot what I was going to say. It'll come back to me in a second. It's been a long day.
I said abolish ICE, and you said you were going to
Oh, I know. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So the Department of Homeland Security was created after 9/11. It was created. It was created in like a relationship that is born out of, you know, like a moment of horror can last, but also it can also be like, oh, this was created in the challenging. So Department of Homeland Security was a response to the actions of 9/11. It was not like Congress saying, in a calm, mild-mannered way, like, what should we really know? It was like, we're terrified. There was a terrorist attack. We got to create the Department of Homeland Security. ¿Qué es eso? So I think you need to destroy the Department of Homeland Security, get rid of ICE, and you start, remember what it used to be, Diane? I mean, of course, this is hard for you because I think, well, when were your parents deported?
2000. It was
Okay.
right before.
Exacto. So, cuando esto pasó con tus papás, horrible igual, pero it was still called INS.
Mm-hmm.
It was Immigration Naturalization Service. After 9/11, it becomes the Immigration Customs Enforcement. Aunque lo que le pasó a los papás de Diane, it was already the ramp up of we're criminalizing immigrants and we're going to take them and we're going to disappear them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm down for abolishing all systems of oppression. Absolutely love you. One more question from Gabby. Gabby, I love, this is not how journalists act at all. I'm like, and the next question.
You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. I would hire you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Gabby wants to know, what are some writers who have inspired you? Your work.
Well, definitely Elena Poniatowska is, if you don't know her, she's Mexican Polish, and she wrote the book La Noche de Tlatelolco, which was really an eyewitness account to the massacre in 1968 in Mexico. Reading Hemingway actually was really important for me because Ernest Hemingway writes in a way that is very straightforward, and I was like, oh, I can do that, because I've never thought of myself as a writer, because I manage both languages, and I always felt that I was just, because I learned Spanish first, I was never going to be a good English language speaker or writer. No. So reading Hemingway was really important. My Latin American studies stuff, like Eduardo Galeano, if you don't know who he is, find out. May he rest in peace. Julio Cortázar, also amazing novelist. These were men, though, right? So it was kind of like, ¿y dónde? And then Isabel Allende appeared. I mean, Diane, when we got a hold of Isabel Allende's book it would have been like in the early 1980s, La Casa de las Sombras. I mean, it was like we would pass it like from one woman to another because we had one copy, and it was like, can you believe it? A Latina writer of this time who is like, doing her own thing with magical realism. So Isabel Allende was very important. And then my compañeras, Sandra Cisneros, Julia Alvarez, Ana Castillo, Denise Chavez, all of those women who I was interviewing as a young journalist coming up. Sandra became a close friend of mine. She's a very important part of this book and of giving me belief in my work. She was actually the first person to read a chapter. And when she read, I was like, oh my God. She was like, sure, send it to me, but I'm going to be honest with you. And I was like, and she read it and she was like, yeah, you go. She was like, you got this. You got a voice, go. And I was like, phew. So reading them. And, right now I have very present the work of Ibram X. Kendi, who wrote the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist and Stamped. So I have him very present in my mind. So yeah, I can't wait to actually have more mind space to actually read. Yeah. I'm really enthusiastically consuming all of the Latina Instagrammers. I don't know, Diane, if you knew this, like all of these Latina Instagrammers who are like book lovers.
Yeah.
And it's like this whole community that I'm just like, wow, I love this. Because oftentimes I'm reading for work, which means really cool. Like I just read Separated by Jacob Soboroff. It's right here. It's one of the books that's on top of this. I just read the book by Mary L. Trump about Trump. It's the only book I've read about Trump. But it was fascinating. So oftentimes I'm reading for work. I really would, one of my favorite things is to just, when I'm off, is to just take, 10 books and be like, yeah, I'm going to read 10 books. So I love all the love for our literature. And if you don't see yourself reflected in a writer out there, then just keep on writing, because it probably means you're a badass and have done something like nobody else has done before.
Absolutely. I love that. Keep writing. Keep writing. What you have to say is important and it is special. And you're right. You probably haven't seen it before because it hasn't been written by you.
Exactly.
How do you, you just write so personally, and also you are so connected with people. You're not just like a journalist. You go in and you don't care about the person. I mean, that was what made me feel so comfortable with you. And you talk about humanizing stories. You humanized me. So what do you do, to take care of yourself, because you are so close to all of these horrifying things that happen to our community. You are reporting on them. You have been reporting on them. I mean, you have witnessed all of this stuff. How do you take care of yourself? How do you for your mental health?
So I take this really seriously. In the book, I write about how it all could have come tumbling down 4 years ago in 2016. And if you haven't listened to the podcast, Death, Sex, and Money, do, because that's where I get into a lot more about what almost happened, or how I almost lost my entire relationship. And so I really had to do, it was a crisis moment. It was, o lo vas a perder todo, or you're going to have to do something else. And thankfully I have an amazing therapist. And so we did a tremendous amount of work. That's where I had to understand like the kind of lasting trauma of being a rape survivor when I was 16. And that was when I really went deep into studying meditation, just getting more into meditation. And here's maybe other women can, and other people can kind of identify with this, because I was really battling ego, because in this business we have to build ourselves up, right? Because we have to, right? And so then Sandy, my madrina, African-American best friend, who is like my sage, and she would say to me, what are you going to do with this ego? You're gonna lose this ego. You're gonna lose your family if you don't lose the ego, and you have to get quiet and focus on gratitude. And I'd be like, ay, por favor, por favor, con the gratitude and getting quiet and the yoga and meditation. Ay, yeah, come on, I'm busy, I'm doing stuff. I got to, come on. And something clicked where I was like, okay, I need to start listening to the meditation. Lidia Cacho, Mexican journalist, who's an amazing survivor. And if you don't know her, she's extraordinary. She was the one who also read me the Riot Act. She was like, girl, you need to start meditating. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know how. She's like, look up apps. You know how to do that on the phone? I was like, okay. And that's what I suggest, that you have to understand that the whole thing about meditation is that it's not about emptying the mind. It's the capacity to just stay seated for 10 minutes. That's basically it. And then you get more power to understand how you can use those tools throughout the day. So I meditate. I wake up early and I have mi cafecito. I water my plants. And then I go into the park and I box for an hour. My boxing group, it's the only people that I see in the pandemic. And we dance. Our teacher is a Senegalese man who is just a wonderful spirit. And so we dance. I take the speaker out, and at 7:00 in the morning, we're dancing. And we're boxing, but we're dancing.
Yeah.
So I find joy like that. I disconnect. I watch shows that I like Orange is the New Black and Jane the Virgin. I was late to Jane the Virgin, by the way. I was super late.
Well, let's talk about my new show, Doom Patrol. That's the new show you need to check out, where I play a superhero. That's it. That's all I'll say. This is your segment, not mine.
Pero espérate un segundo. Where am I looking? How am I finding Doom Patrol?
It's on HBO Max.
Oh, well, excuse me.
And I get to act in it. So.
Oh, right. Okay, Doom Patrol. I just watched something on HBO Max that was really How I May Destroy, or I May Destroy You.
I May Destroy You. Very good.
Wow. So I will watch Doom. I'll just search Doom. It will come up.
Ahí estoy in my full glory on top of a robot.
Okay, ma. I'm going to check it out. So I'm very conscious. Oh, I was going to tell you about what Sandy said. Sandy was like self-love. And I was like, you know what? You all say that I have a big ego, and now you want me to practice self-love. I don't understand this. You want me to spend more time on myself, but you're telling me I have a big ego, and I need to spend less time with myself. And I was not getting the message. The self-love actually comes from the forgiving all the anger and los pleitos, and those little things that you hold on to, and you need to find that self-love by really working at it. Por ejemplo, I'm just going to reveal today. Today I had to do morning Joe. I was nervous, right? I had to wake up super early. I was up by 5:30, kind of doing my little meditative thing. And after I did the HIIT, I got into the bathtub. I ran a bath, and I was just in the bathtub, just kind of like chilling for 15 minutes. That's self-love for me. That's where I'm like, okay, I have just a few minutes to fill the bath, and I can do that. Es una tontería, pero es algo que tú dices, okay, I'm just going to do this for myself, and I'm going to breathe. So listen, la lucha no se va para ninguna parte. That I can tell you. And so this is the long haul, and we need you prepared for the long haul. So thank you for asking, Mamita, or whoever asked.
Jasmine. Sorry, I had to say that. Jasmine, thank you for asking. That's an amazing question, especially, and it's so important for us, for everybody, obviously. But at the moment, in particular, Latinx women, we're really suffering out there. We don't have the resources, and we're lacking that self-love. So any little thing helps. A bath, meditation, find a therapist. It's so important. Maria, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Your insight, your mind, your soul, your spirit. Thank you so much. We feel so lucky. Thank you for your generosity always. And thank you to the San Antonio Book Festival. Thank you so much for having us. Remember to pick up Maria Hinojosa's book, Once I Was You, because she is you and you are her. So read this book.
Thank you so much.
Anywhere.
Thank you so much. I just really want to say, this really warms my heart. The book has just came out on Tuesday, and I'm feeling a lot of love. And I think that's the thing that makes me feel happiest, Diane, as when people just feel like they love your book because they've connected and they've seen themselves. This is a moment where we need to, bring each other up, because this is not easy. It's not easy. Pero como me dijo el señor, I went to the deli to get my sandwich. It's a Yemeni deli. El paisano mexicano who's making the sandwiches allá, and I just said, ¿Cómo estás, paisano? And he was like, well, no, he said to me, ¿Cómo estás? I was like, well, because I'm a journalist. I'm like, well, I'm pissed off. It's authoritarian regime. I don't know about democracy. ¿Y tú, paisano, cómo estás? And he's like, pues bien aquí y esperando que lleguen los días mejores. Van a llegar los días mejores. And I'm just like, that's why we love our immigrants. That's why we love our Latino immigrants. We can't let go of that. That is our spirit, and we carry our ancestors in that spirit, and we have that power, and it's not just ours. We bring it to this country y lo compartimos con todo mundo. Así como Diane comparte este amor conmigo y yo con ustedes. So thank you so much. I really love this event.
And I love you.